Hey everybody, my name is Ryan Gronfin with therestaurantboss.com, and I want to talk to you today about the very survival of your restaurant. Now, I know that might sound dramatic, but stick with me here for a second, because the rules have changed and it's so much harder to succeed in the restaurant business today than it's ever been before. In this training series, my promise to you is that I want to teach you how to attract a flood of customers into your restaurant on a regular basis. I want to teach you how to exceed your customers' expectations with every visit into your restaurant. And then I want to teach you how to maximize profits with the minimum amount of effort. Now, a moment ago, I said that the restaurant business has changed, and it truly has. You know, today we live in what I like to call this expectation economy. Like I said earlier, if you're an owner, operator, or you're aspiring to open up a restaurant, this could be a very challenging business. And I want to share with you the new rules for success. For 5 straight years in a row, food cost has risen at rates that we've never seen before. Your staff is costing more money than ever. Your insurance costs, your rent, everything has gotten more expensive. It's just more difficult to operate out there than it's ever been before. But here's the great news. I'm actually so excited about the future of the restaurant business, because while food costs and everything has been up for those 5 years in a row, like I said, for the first time ever this year, restaurant sales have actually exceeded grocery store sales. That means that more people are eating out than they are cooking at home. The National Restaurant Association has said that the restaurant industry has grown for 6 straight years in a row during one of the worst economies ever, an absolutely horrific economy. And if we've been able to grow during that economy, as we're seeing the improvements now, we are positioned for massive growth. They're predicting another 5 to 6 years of straight growth in the restaurant industry. And actually, for those of you outside the US, they're predicting that growth to be even more aggressive. So the opportunities are endless out there. I actually believe that this is the best time ever to be in the restaurant industry. But if you haven't experienced any of that growth over the last few years, if your restaurant's not operating at the level of profit and freedom and joy that you want it to be, if you haven't experienced that boost that we've had in the last 6 years in the restaurant industry, it's only for one reason. You're operating under the old set of rules. If you feel stuck right now, or if you feel like there's any roadblock in the way of you reaching your goals, it's because you're operating under the old set of rules for how to operate a restaurant business. And today, throughout this series, I'm going to share with you those new rules. The old way of operating was good food, good service, good staff, good prices, location, location, location. Those were the old rules. And if you did that, if you had a good restaurant and you had good service and a good location, you were rewarded with good results. You see, some time ago, it wasn't easy to get into the restaurant business. So very few operators were able to open up restaurants. And so if you provided a good service to your community, you got rewarded with money and freedom that afforded you a good life. Unfortunately, in today's expectation economy, which I'm going to explain to you more in a second here, good isn't good enough anymore. If you want good results, you have to be great. You see, it's a tough pill to swallow, but in this new economy, we get rewarded one step below our effort. So a good restaurant gets poor results. A great restaurant gets good results. If you want great results, if you want to afford the kind of lifestyle for your family and the kind of freedom that allows you to do what you want and the kind of joy for the reasons that you got into this restaurant business to begin with, you have to be excellent. You have to exceed your guests' expectations with everything that you do. That's the only way that you're going to have the life that you want to live. Those are the new rules. And I know it's a tough pill for some of us to swallow, but that's just the reality of the economy that we live in today. There's more competition than ever before, and if we're not excellent in everything we do, we're going to get punished. So we have to be excellent in everything that we do, which is why I want to share with you what I call the 5 mandates for a lifetime of restaurant success. These mandates I figured out when I was struggling in the restaurant business. See, I've been a chef for 20 years. I've worked in every kind of restaurant that you can imagine. I've owned and operated and been partners in anything from Greasy Spoon burger joints to pizza by the slice restaurants to high-end fine dining restaurants in 5-star hotels. And it was through those experiences that I created these 5 mandates. See, there was a time a few years ago when I was operating 4 restaurants at the same time that things weren't going so well. We were struggling. It was a tough economy. We were in a tough location. We were putting out a good product. We were working hard, but we weren't getting the results that we wanted. And actually, one day my wife forced me to go to the emergency room because I woke up with the biggest pains you could ever imagine in my stomach. And when I went to the ER, the doctor said that the stress of the work I was doing had literally burned a hole in my stomach. Only thing I could do to cure that was to eliminate some of the stress in my life. And I kind of laughed at the doctor, like, I can't take time off. This is a tough business that we're in, and we're struggling, we're working hard. But I knew I had to change, and so that's when I fell back on some old experiences I had. I started reading a lot of books and attending seminars, and I want to share with you those systems throughout this training series, a system for attracting a flood of customers into your restaurant on a consistent basis, a system for exceeding your guests' expectations on every visit so they become raving fans and tell the whole community about your restaurant. So they're fighting to get into your restaurant instead of you chasing after them. And then now a system for maximizing your profits with a minimum amount of effort. But before we do that, I want to lay out the foundation for you right now. So we're going to head back to my office. I call it the Restaurant Boss Studio. And I'm going to share with you these 5 mandates for a lifetime of restaurant success. All right, so these are the 5 mandates that literally saved my life. I told you about that just a second ago. The first one is leadership. And when we talk about leadership, sorry, you're gonna have to get used to my writing here. When we talk about leadership, it's important to note how different this is from management. Leaderships have a vision and a drive and a commitment to see that vision through. I like to think of leaders as the rudder on a ship, that when they turn that rudder, the whole ship moves with it. Whereas management is more day by day, task by task. It's very important to separate leadership from management. You can be a manager that also is a leader, and you can be a leader that has management, but it's very hard to be the exact same thing at the exact same time. So whenever you're in a situation, I always like to ask myself, am I in a leadership role right now or a management role? They're very different. The second mandate is systems. And that's what we're talking about here, actually throughout this entire training series, are systems. Systems are black and white. They're right or wrong. And as we're going to talk about in a future video, it's very difficult to manage people, but systems are quite easy to manage. There's no ambiguity. It's either right or it's wrong. So far we've got leadership, systems, and then we've got excellence. Now, with excellence, again, apologize for the writing here, that says excellence. With excellence, this has nothing to do with the quality of your restaurant. This has nothing to do with being a white linen, white glove, fine dining restaurant or fast food. It doesn't mean that fast food restaurants aren't excellent. What excellence means is that everything you do with excellence. So even if you are a quick service, fast casual family restaurant, everything you do is with excellence. So if you're serving a burger, is that the most excellent burger that you can serve for the price point that your customers are willing to pay? Are you providing excellence in everything that you do? So then the next mandate is service. And again, please don't confuse service with the quality of the service that you're giving to customers. This has nothing to do with being, again, a white linen restaurant. Service is a mindset. Actually, I have this quote I wanted to read to you. This is by Gandhi. A customer is the most important visitor on our premise. He is not dependent on us. We are dependent on him. He is not an interruption in our work. He is the purpose of it. He is not an outsider in our business. He is part of it. We are not doing him a favor by serving him. He is doing us a favor by giving us an opportunity to do so. So when we think of service, I want you guys to think larger than just providing food or providing a meal to someone. Service is about how you're looked at in the community, how you're developing your employees. Are you building your employees to be better employees when they move on? Or are we just using them for what we need to get out of them in the restaurant? Service is a mindset, and everything that you do has to be service-oriented. And then the last one is distinction. And in many ways, distinction is maybe the most important one, because oftentimes restaurant owners say to me, I can't raise my prices, I can't raise my prices, my competitors' prices are so much lower than mine, that's because you're commoditizing yourself. It's because you don't have enough distinction in the marketplace. You know, for the most part, an apple is an apple, a potato is a potato. So if someone comes out with some new potato and charges twice as much for it, it's going to be very hard to justify that cost. So if all you're doing is serving a burger and fries and there's nothing that's distinct or special or amazing or different about it, you're going to be stuck in your prices. You're going to have a hard time getting people to come to your restaurant or be loyal to your restaurant because you're not really providing anything that's distinct. But when you have something that's distinct, when you do something different than others do, you're no longer compared to them. So whenever restaurants say to me, I can't raise my prices, the first thing I ask is, what are you doing that's distinct? And they usually have this amazing list of things. Well, we do this, we do this, we do this. And then I say, do your customers know that? And that's oftentimes when the phone goes silent. Because it's great for you to be distinct and for you to do things that are different than your competition, but do your customers know that? So these are literally the 5 mandates that, like I said, saved my life. And I know that if you start to focus on leadership, not management, but leadership, if you start to focus on developing systems in your restaurant, if you focus on excellence in everything that you do, adopt a mindset of service, like that Gandhi mindset of service, and then not just focus on distinction, but make sure that the whole world knows how distinct you are, I know you're going to have a much smoother ride as we go through the rest of these systems and the rest of the things that I'm going to teach you here, as we're looking for more profits, more freedom, and more joy in our restaurants. One of the best examples that I can think of with this is Chipotle. You know, everybody knows that Chipotle is really an industry leader right now in the quick service restaurant space, or really in any restaurant space. Their stocks are going through the roof and they continue to grow at an amazingly fast rate. You know, they're not a white linen restaurant. They don't have that, you wouldn't think of them as this high service restaurant. But the thing is when he started Chipotle, he had this idea that he wanted to be different. So he cleaned up his restaurants. They were white walls instead of like dark. He built them to be cleaner, to be distinct. He had a very simple menu, so everything he did was with excellence. He sourced excellent quality ingredients. They have a complete mindset of service. They do an enormous amount of charity work. They get very involved with their communities. He is an incredible leader. Steve Ells is an incredible leader, not just to his restaurants, but to his employees and to the community leaders and to other businesses. And they have systems like you can't even believe. There's great books out there that have been written about the systems that Chipotle has. So if you're ever confused about any of these, I like to look back at the Chipotle model to really see an example of a restaurant that has mastered these 5 mandates. So I've got a very special download for you just below this video. You'll see it. I call it the Restaurant Owner's Ladder. And when you download that, I don't want to tell you too much about it, but when you download it, it's going to be this really interesting way that we want to climb up to the top of our restaurant ownership kind of ladder. And in the last video, I'm going to explain it in a lot more detail. But go ahead and click that button to download that. All right, folks, I hope that was as good for you as it was for me. But in all seriousness, you know, those are musts. Those are not options. They're not optional. You know, I've interviewed enough restaurant owners. I've studied enough independents and worked with them and worked with enough corporate chains to know that if you want to succeed at a high level, if you want more money, more freedom, more joy in your restaurant business, then you need to master these 5 mandates. If you fall short in even one of them, if you're excellent at 4 of them, but you need some work in one of them, it could spell disaster in your restaurant business. These 5 mandates need to be at the top of your list to create that foundation for a lifetime of restaurant success. Some of you might be a little overwhelmed and a little stressed out and nervous right now having seen those because you have a little bit of work to do, while others of you might be actually pretty relieved. You might be saying to yourself, well, those are pretty much common sense, Ryan. I already know that. So the question I have for you, though, is are you crushing it in every one of those categories? Have you and your staff in your restaurant, have you mastered every single one of those 5 mandates as I described them? You know, if not, because common sense isn't always common practice. What may seem like common and simple to you is just knowledge without intentional action. So just because you understand and know this, the question is are you putting this into practice? So quickly, I just want to check in with you right now. How was that? Did it all make sense to you? Do you have any questions? Was there an aha moment for you? If there was, I would really appreciate, just go ahead and pop that in the comment box right below this video. As you can see, I'm going to be responding to you as quickly as possible and answering any of those questions. And while you're thinking about that, I have a couple of challenges I want to issue you. The first challenge that I want to issue you is to think about why now. You're here watching this video because you need something to change in your restaurant. So what is that needs to change and why now? That's my first challenge for you, and I'd love for you to go ahead and pop that into the comment box as well, or write that down on some of your notes. And then my second challenge for you is to accept that your past does not have to dictate your future, that you're here for a reason right now. Wherever you are in your restaurant business or your life, you're here for a reason, and your past does not have to dictate your future. So I need you to accept that now so we can move forward in the future trainings here. The great news, like I said at the top of this video, is that the restaurant industry is like a rocket ship. It's rumbling on the launch pad right now, ready to take off. It's called platform maturity. The entire business is ready to go. And I want you to imagine your restaurant kind of strapped to the top of that rocket ship, where as the economy is getting better, as more people are spending money in restaurants than ever before, your restaurant is positioned for growth. However, like the dot-com in 2000, everything was doing well. What happened in 2001? The industry was growing and boom, 90% of those businesses failed. If you don't have the systems in place, if you don't have the structure in place to take advantage of that rocket ship that's going to take off, your restaurant is just going to fall by the wayside, and the corporate chains are going to continue to take over your market share because they have those systems in place. They're positioned for that growth. So without those systems in place, unfortunately, your restaurant's going to struggle. So here's my promise to you. Throughout the next 4 videos, I'm going to share with you how to attract a flood of customers to your restaurant, how to exceed your customers' expectation with every visit, how to maximize profit with minimum effort, and then how to scale, how to ride that rocket ship to whatever your dreams and goals are. So right now, I have a third challenge for you, and that's to say that now is my time, that you are in the exact right place at the exact time, and now is your time. I have this expression that I always say, that is it possible you don't have everything you want in your life because you haven't been clear to the world about what it is that you want? So I want you to get clear right now. Write it down in your notes, write it in the comment box below. Tell the world exactly what it is that you want. I'll see you in a couple of days for that next video when we talk about how to attract a flood of customers into your restaurant. But before you leave, if you wouldn't mind smashing that like button below this video, don't forget to put your comments in there, and I'll see you in the next video.